I'm Kira Jo, and in today's video, I'm so excited to do an entire face of Danessa Myricks Beauty in honor of becoming a Danessa Myricks Angel and getting my first package from them. I am super excited. I'm looking at a lot of really fun products in front of me, and I have a vision of what I want to do. I'm basically looking at just a ton of Danessa Myricks products that I received as a PR box for becoming a Danessa Myricks Angel. If you aren't aware, that's an ambassadors program that Danessa Myricks has, and I applied this year and was accepted. The program actually has a lot of flexibility, which I think is super cool. You can kind of post what you want and you don't have to post. I applied maybe a month and a half ago or so, and I was accepted at the end of July. I'm not obligated to post with any of this stuff. I'm not told that I have to say a specific thing about any of these products. I'm just sent these products for free to create with them and then tag Danessa Myricks Beauty as I use them. And the reason I applied, by the way, I've already been a big fan of a lot of Danessa Myricks products that I've tried, or I wouldn't have applied for the program. So just everything that I share in this video of the different products, just know that I'm sharing things that I genuinely love, and a lot of them are things I was already using. I'm just going to use some tape to mark off the areas where I want a really straight line. We'll see if I can do this on camera. I'm used to being able to have the mirror. I'm not used to having to hold the mirror while I apply the tape. Hang on, I think I'm gonna have to do this without filming it because I do not have a standalone mirror over here. Okay, that was much easier with both hands available to put the tape on. And also placing the tape, my eyes are not exactly the same shape. So when I place the tape, it's not going to perfectly match on both sides, and that's not a huge deal. What I do to check is I'll actually take my fingers, and again, I can't do this because I don't have a mirror, but I'll try to line my finger up with the angle that I have the tape, and I'll just compare what that angle looks like with my fingers because it helps me visualize it better. Anyway, so I get that tape there. I usually line mine up so that my lower lash line has a little bit of a gap before I get to this tape. If I put the tape right against where my upper lash line is, then when I open and close my eyes, the tape actually moves around. So that's just a little tip. If you have an eye shape that's similar to mine, or if you have hooded eyes at all, you will probably need to put the tape a little lower than you think you do. I think the first few times I tried this technique, I did put it way too high, and it made it much more difficult to blend the shadow and have the line actually stay crisp. So yeah, make sure you give your eyelid plenty of space to be able to close and open and move around, because it's going to be moving around while you do your makeup. I'm gonna try to make this tutorial pretty much a full face of Danessa Myricks. I'm pretty sure they don't have a mascara, so I'll be using a different mascara, this eye primer as well. I know you can use the blurring balm powder as a primer. I've seen, I think Danessa do that on her Instagram, the Teach Me Tuesdays. I think she's done that before. But I'm going to use a regular eye primer. So this is the one from About Face that I used in my last video. And I always do this after I've placed the tape so that I can just put the eye primer right on top. And I don't know if you can see it, the tape actually is moving. Like, this line doesn't stay exactly in the same place when my eye is open and shut. So I'm just gonna be careful when I'm applying the shadow that this tape is staying down. Another tip with using the tape is that it will be a lot more comfortable if you've done skincare before putting the tape on. Sometimes I'll actually do skincare again, like I'll add a little more moisturizer after I remove the tape, because the tape does, you know, it's sticky. I don't like doing the trick where you put it on your pants or like on your hand or something to make the tape less sticky, because I want that tape to stay right where I put it. Having skincare on under the tape is kind of my way of getting around the tape hurting when I pull it off or like harming my skin. So I've never had any issues when I have moisturizer on underneath this. Oh, and another product I have on that is not Danessa Myricks. I did already do my brows before I started filming. Okay, so we're gonna go into some fun color. This is a Danessa Myricks ColorFix. These are incredibly waterproof and long lasting. They're super powerful. You only need like the tiniest little bit. I had a couple of these already, but now I have a few more shades that I picked out for this PR package. So this is in the shade Primary Red, and we're gonna go very colorful on the eyes, but it's mostly gonna be all concentrated to that outer corner area, which is why I taped off that spot. So I squeezed that onto my little palette. You can see like it's seriously only the littlest, tiniest bit. If I need more, I will use more. So I'm going to take this little Instapop crease brush from Real Techniques. And I'm just gonna dab that around, and you can see even though it was just that tiniest dot, like it did dab around quite a bit, and I've got a good amount on the brush. So I'm going to take that and start patting that right at the edge of where that tape is. And I know some people don't even use a primer with the ColorFixes. I have pretty oily eyelids, so if I don't use a primer, it will probably still crease on me, and I just kind of do that with any product. I think I will end up going in and using a little more ColorFix because I want this line to be pretty artistic and have a good amount of contrast. So I will squeeze a little more of that on there. I think I'm also going to use this as my lip color because these are very multi-purpose. You can use them anywhere on the face. You can mix them with each other. You can mix them with other products. I just dab on top of the palette like this because what that does is it helps the bristles get a little more evenly coated. If I don't dab around like that, I might end up putting a really concentrated amount of this color where I don't want it. And these are really nice. You can kind of blend them out, or you can apply them almost like paint. So you decide the level of intensity that you want, but you want to go in just a little at a time because these are very potent and it's easy to apply more than you mean to. And I'm just trying to finesse this edge. Since this line is going to be so sharp, I want to make sure this line at the top also has some good shape to it. And I wasn't purposely creating any specific shape here, but that just kind of naturally happened as I applied to my eye because of my eye shape. So I'm going to just go with that and let it kind of flow into that crease because I think that's kind of a cool effect, a cool shape. Now going to the other eye, this is the eye I know the tape is already starting to peel off a little bit. So I'm just pushing down. I want to make sure that tape stays nice and taut against my skin while I apply the ColorFix because I don't want that to go anywhere except right where the tape isn't covering. I want that line to be maintained. So just like we did on the other eye, starting with just a little bit, I'm gonna put it everywhere I want it, and then I'll slowly go up. If I go up too quickly, like if I start making my way up this part of my eye really fast, I might end up with edges that are more difficult to blend out. So I'm just going a little bit at a time, going pretty carefully so that I'll get the effect that I want and I'll have full control over where it's going. It also is going to make a pretty big difference what kind of brush you use. This one's pretty small and pretty precise. So it's not difficult to work with a cream like this and get it to go where I want. Each time I'm dipping into more of this ColorFix, I'm also every time starting right here at the edge because that's where I want the most pigment to be concentrated. If I start elsewhere, wherever you start placing the pigment, that's where the pigment is going to be the strongest. And that doesn't just go with ColorFixes, that's with basically anything that you use, or you know, if you do art or painting, you probably also know that that's what happens when you place color. The first place you put that color down is where it's going to show up the most. So since I want this line to be really distinct, really sharp, that's always where I'm placing it first and then blending out as I go further up. And I'm being pretty careful up here. I don't want to go too high up. I'm just trying to make this match the other side as best as I can. And then I'm just trying to get both of those eyes to match pretty well. So I'm looking straight ahead so that I can see both sides at the same time and slowly bring that red color in to the middle. But I don't want to go too much further than where it's at right now. And I'm just gonna add a tiny bit more. And you can layer these. The more you layer them, the more pigment you're gonna get. And I'm just using what's left on the palette and adding just like a tiny bit more over what I already put down because it's now dried, and so I can add another thin layer. And I would say that's the best way to work with cream products in general. If it's a cream product that dries down, you don't want to apply more when it's still creamy and wet. You want to wait until it dries down a little bit, and then you can add more if you are wanting a little more color. This is a very pigmented color. And now I can take off that tape which feels really good. My eyes feel a little bit like sweaty underneath, but you can see that really like crisp, satisfying line. That's what I love about this technique, because I've gotten to the point where I can do pretty straight, crisp lines with eyeliner as well, but this is just a really easy way to get that effect. And like, I can't get this perfect of a line without having to, you know, clean up with concealer or something if I'm not using tape. So that's why I like using the tape technique. And then I'm actually gonna jump in with another Danessa Myricks Color Fix. So this is the shade Lift. It's just a plain matte white. This was actually a shade I already had. This was maybe my first Danessa Myricks product I ever purchased. I think it was. So I've had this white one for a long time. Usually when I use it, I'll just use it like on my inner corners. Or sometimes if I'm doing a more painterly-like look, I will use it. I mixed it a little more with the red than I meant to, so I want that to be more white than it is. Just gonna add a little more to the palette. These are kind of fun. I always feel really artistic when I use the ColorFixes because they look like little tubes of paint, and that's kind of what they are. They're just really straight pigment, more or less, and I don't know, they make me feel really creative and put me in kind of a fun mood. I might want to do another brush. I don't really want a lot of mixing of the red and the white because I really like this shape that I have going on, and I think it looks cool. So instead of going in with this brush that I used for the red, I'm gonna grab another Real Techniques brush and try to just get the white on it. I was making a little more of a pink than what I was envisioning, so. And I'm just gonna dab. And these brush strokes that it's making actually look kind of cool. Like, I'm kind of liking this texture that it's creating. I'm trying to decide if I want to blend that out or if I'm just gonna let it be textured because it's kind of neat. I think this time I will blend it out, but this is good to keep in mind for the future, that if I use this fluffy brush and just dab, I can kind of create a fun texture. I like that. And you've got to work pretty quickly with these. If you wait too long in between placing the shade and blending it out, if you're wanting a more blended look, it will dry down. So like, you want to probably do one eye at a time if you're not working very quickly. I think I'm working fast enough that this won't be an issue. And then I am just going to dab over that with my finger because the warmth of my finger will blend this out a little differently than a brush would. Just trying to get that texture as smooth as I can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm noticing right now I have a little more of the red on this eye than I do on this eye. Like, if you look at the part that kind of looks like eyeliner, this is thicker. So I'm just gonna try to go over that with the white to kind of even that out between the two eyes. And I still have more white on my palette, so that shouldn't be too difficult. Yeah, that's pretty good. And just like with the red, I'm kind of working with layers. I don't want that white to get too thick in any one place and be more difficult to blend out. And now the next little unevenness that I'm noticing is I've just added a little more white up here on the other side. So I'm just gonna add some of that white a little higher on this eye so that it matches the other eye better. And most people are going to have unevenness on their actual eye shape, and I know I do for sure. Sometimes you just gotta work with it. Like, you're never gonna be able to get it to be completely perfect, but you can just work with each eye and the shape that it has until you get to a place where you're happy with it. One of the things I received in my PR box was the Twin Flames in the shade Bay. This is mostly iridescent, so it's not going to change the color a ton. It's just gonna add some shine and texture and some iridescent effects. So I'm gonna add a little bit at a time because it's pretty strong, starting with just my inner corner. And then I'm just gonna grab this little lip brush from Cliona, and I'm just gonna use that instead of the applicator to help blend that into the color fix that I laid down. So I just want a little bit of that going up into the inner corner area and starting to blend in with this white that I put all over the lid. I might add a little more because I think it's a really interesting and cool color. So I'm gonna add a little bit more here on each side. I'm trying to decide, like, how much area I want that to cover. And then because I've blended that out, I want some of it to stay really strong. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep adding a little tiny bit until I get it exactly how I want it. I have noticed the packaging of this Twin Flames kind of hard to shut. And part of that might be that I do a lot of my makeup with my hands, and so they get a little greasy from my lotions and stuff, but it's like, is it an octagon? No, it's a hexagon. It's got 6 sides. I have had to like use a towel to close it because I want to make sure it doesn't dry out. And it is a little hard to shut without the help of the towel. So FYI, just something I've noticed about it. And another really fun texture product that I want to play with today are these Infinite Chrome Flakes. I've had several shades of this as well, but this is a new shade that they just sent to me. So this is Lightning Bolt. It's a beautiful, super textured, like multi-chrome thing. Like I love these flakes. I think they add some really interesting effects to an eye look. You can also put them on your lips. So I have done that before as well. But this is going to be a very different color from like the pink and the red and that iridescent that we have on. I think I want to add this. I'm trying to decide. I did have this vision of like putting it over the red, but I really like how the red looks by itself. So like I kind of don't want to put it there. I might just kind of nestle it in here next to where I put that Twin Flames shade, but it's not going to completely take over the look. You can really build these up, these multi-chrome flakes, and you can make it like a full effect on the lid. Right now I'm just gonna use it kind of like a glitter. I'm just dabbing on a little bit at a time. I have had people ask me on Instagram how to apply the Infinite Chrome Flakes so that they're not really like chunky and textured and like all over your lid. If you go in with your finger, it's gonna do that. If you go in with a small brush like this and you only take a tiny bit at a time, it's actually pretty easy to control. And this is kind of suspended in a gel. You don't need to do like a glitter glue or anything underneath it in order to get it to stay. I'm trying to decide how far up I want to take this. I kind of like it layered with that Twin Flame shade. And I don't know if you can see, there's kind of some interesting texture stuff going on in here. I think it had to do with the way that that Twin Flames product layered over the white ColorFix. And I'm just going to keep layering this in places where it seems like a fun place to add it to me until I'm happy with where it's at. These are a little wet, so if you stick them right in the middle of your lid, you might want to like leave your eyelids down like this intentionally until you can feel it drying. I'm just going to keep adding this. It's so fun. Yeah, I do think I might have liked this look better all matte, but this was really fun to play around with. With the Infinite Chrome Flakes, you always want to make sure you tighten them really well or they will dry out because they are a kind of a liquidy product. And now I have a lot of fun like face products to try. I'm going to put the bronzer on first to kind of get a little bit of shape. And with Danessa Myricks products, I use my fingers a lot. I kind of use my fingers a lot for most makeup, but especially with creams, and Danessa Myricks has a lot of creams in her line. Between the ColorFixes and all of her complexion products. And then she has a bunch of multi-use products that you can use kind of as blush, bronzer, highlighter, lipstick. You can use them on the eyes. This one is the Balm Contour. On me, this is more of a bronzer shade than a contour shade, but I think it's a nice color. This is the shade, I think the shade is 1. Oh yeah, light 1. I couldn't see where the little color thing was. This is another product I already had prior to becoming a Danessa Myricks Angel. So I had already bought this one myself and used it quite a bit. So I'm just gonna do that to just kind of shape out my face a little bit. I'm going along my cheekbone. I'm not really going too much under it or too much over it because this is kind of working as a contour and bronzer in one. So I'm kind of using this to act as both. It will shape my face a little bit and then it will also bronze me up a little. So I'm gonna apply a tiny bit of that to the sides of my nose too. It blends pretty well, so I haven't really run into too many issues with feeling like I applied it too heavily. It does also help that, again, the skincare underneath helps creams and things like this to blend. a little sweaty, so I'm kind of scared to add it to my head. Oh shoot, yeah. I need to be able to dab off my head or something. It's really hot in my makeup room. I might just try to avoid putting makeup on my forehead because I feel like no matter what I put there, it's not going to turn out very well. And it's not because of the products, it's just because it's hot in here. So I'm gonna try to leave the forehead alone. You can see I was still able to kind of wipe that off so that it wasn't an issue. But yeah, my forehead, we're gonna just kind of let be, I think, today, because it is too hot. And I'm doing okay most of my face, but yeah, top of my forehead is really sweaty at the moment. They sent me 2 shades of the Blurring Balm Powder Blush, and they look like this. So I got one that's a little more pink and one that's a little more peach. I think I'm gonna go in with Rosé and Brunch because it's more of a pink shade. It's kind of a mauve. So this is the color. I think that will go better with the eye look than the peach, even though I do love a peach blush. So maybe we'll use that one a different time. But I like this Blurring Balm powder formula. I especially like the universal shade. And then I've played around with these blushes a couple of times already, and I do think they're great little blushes. They do have kind of a blurring property to them. I feel like I notice the blurring more once they set. So when I first apply them, I don't especially notice a blurring property. Yeah, I think this blush shade goes well with the eye look. But yeah, what I was saying is once they dry down, I do notice kind of a blurring effect. And the universal shade is great. You really can use it as a powder or as a primer. These are really easy to blend. I think they look really flattering on the skin. Just getting rid of a little piece of glitter there. I normally wouldn't apply more, but because that eye look is so red and vibrant, I want to make sure that the blush doesn't get washed out on my cheeks. So I want the blush to kind of hold its own against this more colorful eye look. So I do like this tone. I think it goes pretty harmoniously with that red on the eyes. Where did I put the lid? One of my new complexion products that's become a quick favorite is this Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Skin Tint. I haven't tried her other base products much yet. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I was gonna use the Juicy Skin Boost, whatever it's called. What is it? I just realized I meant to use this before putting on the blush. This is the Yummy Skin Glow Serum. It smells really good. Like, I love the smell of this, and it's just really glowy and shiny. I wasn't sure how it would look on my skin because I kind of was like, maybe this will be too bronze or like too dark, but it works really well. I really like it as a primer in the areas where I want to be glowy. So like I would have put that on my cheeks before I applied the blush, but it's okay. I can use that in another video. Anyway, this is the shade 3. I think this is the best shade for me in the range. It's a really nice product to work with. It's kind of sheer, but it has enough pigment to where like I don't feel like I'm just applying like skincare, you know, like it does provide some coverage. And so what I'll do is I just use my finger just like this. I tap it out and I'll only apply it in the areas where I want a little bit of like skin perfecting. So I won't put this all over my face. And that's kind of how I apply my foundation products in general. I'm trying to remember if it was, I think it was Lisa Eldridge. Lisa Eldridge and Katie Jane Hughes both kind of do this, where I think Katie Jane Hughes calls it like pinpoint concealing or something like that, which is a little different than the makeup on the whole face, but it's the same idea. And Lisa Eldridge calls it like patchwork makeup, I think. But the idea is you just put the colors where you need that specific color instead of doing like tons of layers of makeup on your skin. So like on your cheeks, you're mostly just gonna have blush. You don't have to do a full layer of concealer and foundation in every single spot on your face and then like under the blush and under the bronzer. It's like if there's an area where you want to be bronzed, just like use a bronzer there. And if you want blush in a specific area, put blush there. But you don't need to have like 5 layers of complexion products in order to have like a face that looks completed and perfected. So that's kind of the idea. So that's the way I apply my foundation. I don't apply it all over my entire face. So I'm not gonna put foundation, or at least not very much, on the cheeks. I might just pat over it like this, like as I approach the area where the blush is, just to keep things looking pretty seamless. I will kind of dab around it, but like right here in the center, I'll probably leave just as pigmented as it is. What I like about this is it does like just kind of blend into my skin. It looks more perfected than my bare skin, but it makes it look like I'm not wearing a ton of makeup. I really like that about a product. Like any product that can look basically like skin, once you get it, you know, blended on, is a product that I will be a fan of. So I do have like this tiny little zit that's starting under the skin right there. I am dabbing on it a little, but I'm not going to try to do anything major with it. I'm just going to let it show through a little bit because nobody's perfect, and if I apply more makeup, I feel like it'll just make the zit look worse and draw more attention to it. If I just kind of lightly go over that area, it just doesn't stand out that much, especially next to all the brighter colors in the makeup. So I will apply a little more of that skin tint. I really like the applicator on this. It's pretty small and it's just a squeezy tube, so you can perfectly control the exact amount that you want. And that's not the case with a lot of complexion products. I've had many a squeezy tube that is difficult to control as it comes out. So what I'm doing now is just any areas where I can still see a little more discoloration peeking through that I don't want, is just dabbing that on with the brush so that I get a little more, like a heavier layer of that skin tint there. So just in a couple places where I have, you know, blemishes or a little brighter red pigmentation than others. And then I'm just blending over this area so that it all still looks pretty seamless together, because I don't want any areas to be, you know, standing out too much as having way more product than other areas. And just blending properly is kind of the key to making this all look cohesive. Another fun product I have to put on the cheeks is this Dew Wet Balm. I have the shade Rose Water, so it's kind of a pink. I like using it as a blush topper. So I'm just gonna dab that just on the high points, and then I'll blend it out. Just wanna make sure I get it on both sides before I start blending so that I don't apply too much product in one place. And because this is a balm, it does look, I think, really just makes your skin look nice and hydrated and plump. And it blends easily. And FYI, I'm not someone who gets like bothered by sticky cheek products. I wouldn't say this one's overly sticky, but it is a balm and it doesn't completely dry down. So if you're looking for products that like look like creams but dry down completely, this one's probably a little more balmy than you want. And the last product I'm gonna add to the skin is this, the universal shade of the Blurring Balm Powder. This one is really small because I actually got it as like a deluxe sample size from Sephora. This is the full size. So I was sent the shade 2, which you can use kind of as like a foundation product. You can use it in a lot of different ways. I want to play around with that one a little more before I use it on camera because I'm not sure yet what my favorite way to use it is. I really like the universal shade because it's just translucent, and so it's really easy to use basically as a powder, and I like that since I have dry skin. I prefer using this most of the time these days to using a powder because it is a balm, but once it dries down, it does like blur out your pores and it mattifies a little bit, and so I like to use that on top of my products just in the areas where I want to be a little more matte. So I'm going to use that in my T-zone, and I'll just kind of dab that in. What I've noticed with the ones that have color to them, like I'm not sure exactly my best way to use it, because when I use this in a universal one, I feel like it does just kind of make my pores disappear. When I use the colored one, because it's not like the perfect color for my skin, I just see more of it. Like it doesn't look as seamless with my complexion. And so that's why I like this universal one, and that's why I'm using this one today. I'll let you know if I find a good way to use the shade 2, or if I still just continue to prefer the shade Universal. I do like how convenient this one is and how versatile it is. I can use it in lots of different ways. This is the way I use it most, is just to mattify a tiny bit. It doesn't completely take away all of the shine, but it mattifies enough that like you don't look too oily. And I like that I can just apply it with my fingers. Like if I do powder, I have to get out a brush for it. I like that with this, I can just apply it with my fingers and we're good. And then something I am trying out new in this video is I'm actually going to use that red ColorFix on my lips. I don't normally use them on my lips, but I know you can. So I'm gonna try it out. I have a ColorFix in the shade Exposed, and it's kind of a rosy brown shade. I think I'm gonna use a little bit of that too. So this is what Exposed looks like. I think I'm gonna use that almost as a lip liner because I think it's pretty close to the same shade as Makeup Forever Endless Cacao, which I use as lip liner all the time, no matter what color of lipstick I'm using. So I think I'm gonna use that a little bit around the edges of my lips just to make it easier to blend around the edges. So I'll just start over here. I'm probably not gonna talk much while I do this. I don't think I've ever used a brush like this exactly to do like a lip line. I'm going a little more outside the line than I meant to. But I've already done it on the other sides, like I don't want to... Oh my goodness. Okay. And like I said, these are like waterproof and pretty long lasting, so I'm just gonna like blend over that. I don't need it to be a defined lip line. Mostly this is just so that when I add the red, it won't be as difficult to blend to the outside of my lips. Yeah, I can see how this works as a lip product though. In fact, that's kind of a pretty brown for my lips, I think. It's nice and cool toned. I also use this one for freckles. Yeah, it's a nice nude color. All right, going in with the red, it's like the moment of truth. I'm gonna start in the middle so that it's not as scary to blend out. And what's really fun about using this same product on the eyes and the lips so that I don't have to try to get those tones to go together. We are literally using the exact same color on the lips and the eyes, so that is not going to be difficult to make those go together. I don't have to take the red pigment like all the way to the edge because the edge already has that other color there. So I think that worked okay to use Exposed as the lip liner. And you can see it's already drying down quite a bit, so not a lot is transferring to that upper lip. So I'm going to use more and start applying that to the upper lip. And same thing, I'll start in the center and work my way out. If you start at the edge, it's a lot harder to go that direction. It does feel a little dry on the lips, but like, I wouldn't say it's uncomfortable. This is definitely a product I can use on my lips. Oh, and I meant to say too, I'm wearing another insert name here, ponytail. So this one is Scarlet. It's kind of an S-wave. I don't know how much of it you can see, but it's really pretty. It's got a nice curl to it. And my little twists are kind of a nod to me in 2000. Not just me, but everybody. A lot of us wore our hair like this back in the 2000s, the early 2000s. So this was like a go-to for me when I was in middle school. And now I do it when I have greasy hair and I want it to still look cute in the front. Then I'm just gonna kind of skip through curling my lashes and doing my mascara, and then I'll come back and show you the finished look. And this is the finished look. If you've enjoyed this video, I hope that you'll subscribe to see more from me. Until next time. Okay, now's the hard part. I need to do the thumbnail. So I'm gonna try to hold up as many products as I can out of the ones that I used. We'll see how this goes.